All right, Art 483, welcome to week number 2 of remote instruction. First of all, I want to thank the very high percentage of you who got it done last week quickly and efficiently. Very much appreciated. And thanks to those who helped me out with the reply test. Um, some of you probably don't know, but as people asked me questions, I replied back and said, hey, can you post this in somebody else's post from last week on the discussion posts? And they did, and they showed up just the way I was hoping they would, a lot like what I'm used to in Canvas. So in the future, you will be able to critique each other's work on the discussions. For today's turn-in of the JPEG of your printout, I know that sounds ridiculous, right? But the whole idea was that you were supposed to turn in a printout today in class, but obviously you can't do that if we're not meeting in person. So we're moving on to the second part of that, which is getting that same file that you would have used for printing turned in. So I explained, the turn in and the procedures of that last week, but I did have a question or two, so I just want to make sure that I go over a couple things just to make sure we're all on the same page, because if you don't get it right the first time, it's minus 8 points. So I want to make sure that that's not my fault if you get it wrong. In other words, it's always the students that try to wing this one that end up getting bit on it. They watch a little bit of my video and say, I know where Steve's going with this, and then boom, I get something that's either exactly the web size or it's sometimes the opposite of the web size. So I just want to show you a couple things and just talk about that a little bit so that you will have some time to redo it if you didn't or you're not on the right track yet. So first and foremost, as you probably hopefully already knew, is you were getting ready to print this and make it look like some of the examples that I showed you. So let's just say that you like the idea of getting up nice and close on your 13 by 19 printout. And let's say you laid this out on a 13 by 19 document in Illustrator, and especially if you had to add text or you were going to put any wire flow diagrams, Illustrator would make the most sense. But we'll talk about the other options. And so you went into Illustrator, and let's say that these little squares represent each one of those images that you saw. And you put that together, and you thought it was perfect. Now I'll tell you why I don't think it's perfect in a second. And you printed that out. You'd have been good for this week. Then the next step would be to take what you printed out, just like you would if you entered a design contest and they said, send us a JPEG of your work. You're not going to resize it. You may size it, but you're not going to change the ratio of it whatsoever, right? If it was a CD cover, it would still be square. If it was a book cover, it would still be rectangular. It's going to be the exact same ratio that it was before. So that's where the video instruction takes over. Now, however, I am going to give you, as designers, because this might just bother the heck out of some of you, the ability to cut off from either the 13 or the 19, but not both. So you'll scale it up or down. But if you say, you know what, that bothers me that there was extra space on the sides, way more than on the top and the bottom, then you might say, that's looking much better over here. And I'm not going to get this perfect, but just give you the idea. It'd be nice if on my printout that I turn into Steve, he would have let me cut it. And absolutely, I would let you cut it. So you get to take, in this case, from the 19, but some of you may say, oh, I need to take from the 13. All right, so one slice. So imagine you print out your 13 by 19, you get one cut with the X-Acto knife. That's what I'm giving you. So if you do that, then your starting point is not 13 by 19. It's whatever this new thing that you would have cut before you mounted it to your blackboard, for example. It's that, right? So how do you find that out? You just simply click on the artboard tool and you say, okay, my new size is 13 is still the same, but the 19 is now 17.47. All right, so if that doesn't make sense, play it backwards one time and digest it. I think it's pretty easy. I'm just basically saying that cutout that you printed, you would have cut that off. So now do it electronically. Okay. Now, some of you may want to do it instead of 13, well, 13 by 19 would be the tall format. I just showed the wide format of 19 by 13. Either one is fine as far as the print goes. And this is what we just talked about. You may change one of these or subtract from one of these, the 13 or the 19, but not both, just to give you the best aesthetics. Okay, so this becomes your starting point for the video instruction. Now, when you email these to me, and that's how we will turn these in, is email, so I can let you know right away whether you got it right or not. When you do email it to me and your starting point is anything other than 13 by 19 or 19 by 13, tell me that right in the email, because that's part of the way that I'm going to check this. Is I know what the ratios of these are in the web world, because I've done this so many times. Now, let me just pause here and show you something. All right, so what I want to show you is when you go to watch the videos, so Prof. Steve G, instructional videos, turn in files, you can ignore this first one, and if you're in Illustrator, in other words, you set up that image that you were going to print from Illustrator, then you follow this video and this video. And it's important that you understand, as I've been trying to emphasize, that when I'm working in this video and I set up an artboard that's 1600 wide by 1200 tall, and then I take an example work and I drag that work in there, in that 16 by 1200 area, the work that you would be dragging in with that red box over the top like I do in the videos would be the file that you were going to print, either exactly 13 by 19, 19 by 13, or with the option of reducing one of those measurements. That becomes the starting point. All right, it takes 2 videos to get through this, because the first one's mostly about setup and then the next one's mostly about exporting it. Now, if you never left Photoshop, everything you did was in Photoshop, in other words, you didn't put any additional text on it, you laid out your 4 or however many images in Photoshop, never left Photoshop, you had a document set up in Photoshop that was 13 by 19 inches or slightly less for one of those measurements, then you would watch this last video in the series, right? But if you were an Illustrator, you're done after you watch these 2. And that brings me to a good point. Whether you do this one or the other 2, do not forget to do that test in Photoshop. I mean, that's exactly what I do. So for you to not do that and see that it's wrong is almost like saying, well, I just don't really care. I gave it a shot. Maybe Steve won't notice, but I will, because that's what I do. I open it up in Photoshop. I run the same exact test that I ask you to run in Photoshop at the end of the videos. And if you get there and it's not working out, then figure out where it's not working out for you in the videos. And if you can't, or if you notice what that spot of confusion is in the video, let me know what that is. Send me a screenshot of what you're working on and how it's not coming out the same, and I'll be happy to ask the question before you even turn it in. I'll even make the first turn in not due until 10 a.m. so that you have a chance to go in, double check, ask me questions, and go from there. All right, now for the portfolio site that we will build, basically the continuation of what we've just been talking about, the printout and now the JPEG, I would say that it's more important than ever, if and only if you are nervous about the portfolio site, that you stick with my videos. That way, if you have questions, you can always screenshot me, even zip your folder, send it over, and I'll be able to help you with those, the best. If you're not nervous and you think, you have the can-do attitude, it still might be the best place for you to start and then experiment more and more from there. For everyone, I suggest starting out fairly simple. Save, but not just files, the entire folder backup. Now here it is on video, right? You can't deny that I'm telling you this. So I can't have a whole lot of sympathy for you if a couple weeks from now you tell me that you lost everything, right? You get cloud-based backup, get a thumb drive, email your folders to yourself. That means that they kind of exist on the cloud anyway. But not just the files, the entire folder. Basically, you keep starting from the last point you left off, and in that way, if something goes back, you've got, maybe only an hour's worth of work where everything is corrupted or just so screwed up that it's not worth trying to fix. You just go back, start again from 2 hours ago, and you're good. Okay, so what I would suggest as a workflow is get it done more comprehensive, or I'm sorry, get it done in a simple fashion first, and then go to more comprehensive. In other words, get done what you need for a decent grade, and then experiment away for the learning experience and for the better grade. But see the previous bullet again. Every time you get something good, save the whole entire file and then start working on a new version of that. I think I just said file. Save the whole entire folder and then start working from the new folder going forward. Okay, now is the time to start learning and experimenting with Adobe XD. You having LinkedIn Learning, aka lynda.com, you have access to this. Let me just show you something about that. In the videos that were up last fall for XD, they kept using the word symbols, but Adobe changed that word to components. So have that in mind if you watch the video, if they didn't update that part of the videos. The other thing I highly recommend you not waiting until the last minute to start learning about is combining videos in Adobe Premium Pro. So I have a video to get you started here, but also keep in mind you have LinkedIn Learning, and what a better time than now to do some extra learning, right? With all this quarantine type stuff going on. Finally, let's talk about what is due for the 27th of March. So we will have a process check of your portfolio site being built in Dreamweaver. And I was mentioning down here that you should start experimenting in 000 getting this up, but this is actually how we are going to critique this stuff every week, is you are going to put it live on the server. We'll have a discussion board set up. You'll post your link. You'll critique at least the work of 2 other people's work via their links. So get on the right side of the way 000 works, which means it doesn't work very well, so you got to experiment a lot. Set up a second account with them. I did, and it's just a great way that if one is giving you trouble, you have the other one. It might be hosted on a different server or something like that, so it just doubles your chances of things going better for you. So make them good, and to get the minimum 36 out of 40, you just have to have one page that is working, or mostly working. And if you're going through my videos, this will mean that you're through video number 8 and that you've got the either horizontal or vertical navigation going on. You can read through this and get the idea. I'll go over more information next week when it's actually due about the discussion posts. You get to ignore this one because you basically did that already for this week. And at this point, you should know what your mobile app is going to be, even though there's nothing due for it yet. Last semester, I had about 4 students in the class that were trying to do a different variation of the horizontal navigation than I was doing, where it would stay centered. And we were having problems figuring that out in class, and I found this link. I also have some links here for some fancy CSS and putting animations in your website. So I look forward to seeing your work, and any questions from you, please email me.